Now we're going to load up the mayor's report for this morning, which is a proposed bond election for this November. I have distributed to council, actually the PowerPoint I'm going to show, and a separate sheet showing the numbers by category. Want to emphasize that the reason I'm bringing this forward today, we will not be voting to place anything on the ballot until August. There's a very narrow window where we can act to place items on the November ballot, and so the vote will actually, to move forward, will actually fall then. But I wanted to give council members approximately a month to view this, mull this over, and it's not set in stone. There are parts of this that are still can be revised, but this is the broad overview that to give council an idea of what is possible and what I'm proposing for this bond election. Fiscal responsibility is obviously one of the priorities of this administration and this council. It's the guiding force behind everything we do here. Are we spending our money well and wisely? When we go to the voters for a bond election, we are asking their permission to take on debt for the city of Houston. That, pure and simple, that's all a bond election is. Can we take on debt? Do we have their permission? And we have the responsibility to show the voters what we're going to use that debt capacity for. By asking for permission to take on debt, it doesn't mean that we're necessarily going to do it, but if we do, we must do it in accordance with what we have told the voters. Next slide. I'm proposing a bond election totaling $410 million. It does not require a tax increase. It's actually the lowest request for debt capacity in more than 30 years. It will provide for 5 years of CIP funding, and it will pay for needs that we identified when we passed the capital improvement plan a few weeks ago, including roof and foundation repairs, new police and fire stations, improvements to parks, libraries, health, solid waste, all of the things that our citizens, all the facilities that our citizens have contact with every day. Next slide. Said it was the smallest in more than, or approximately 30 years. Previous bond elections have ranged from $135 to $350 million more in the last 15 years. The reason that it is significantly less is because of the drainage fee and the new Rebuild Houston program. Charter amendment 2 years ago prohibited us from using debt to finance street and drainage improvements. Something on the order of $125 million of street and drainage improvements is now coming through the drainage fee under the Rebuild Houston program, and we cannot ask the voters for any money to do street or drainage work across the city of Houston. But we are also trying to be conservative in the amount of debt that the city takes on, and while this $410 million proposal is not the max we could afford, it takes up a significant amount of our debt capacity. We certainly expect to use continued prudent fiscal planning in the future, and I believe that it's important, just like Houston households, that City Council keep a close eye on how we're stretching taxpayer dollars and how much we can truly afford. And this is an affordable proposal below our debt capacity, but not significantly below. I know we have a lot of needs across the city of Houston, but it does help us meet our responsibilities over the next 5 years of our capital projects program. We do go out to the voters approximately every 5 to 6 years to fund our capital plan. Next slide. As you can see from the slide, the last 3 referendums, 1997, 2001, 2006, ranging from $545 million to $776 million. This will cover the 5-year CIP with enough money to bridge into the 5 years after that, where a future administration would go back to the voters. Next slide. By category, and it would be on the ballot by category, I am proposing $144 million for public safety needs. It would be improvements at neighborhood police stations citywide, expansion of Fire Station 55, new fire station in the Pine Brook area, Fire Station 22 in District I, ranging from 55 is the purchase of land. The Pine Brook Station in District E is a completely new fire station because the currently accessed fire station is more than 3 miles away from those residents. Fire Station 22 is the addition of 2 new apparatus bays and related improvements. Fire station maintenance and improvements citywide, facility security improvements, and then, of course, other building repairs, and you're going to see that other building repairs in a number of these categories. Next slide. I am proposing $63 million for health, sanitation, and general government improvements at city facilities not included in the other categories, such as the renovation of the West Park recycling facility, which is used by 11,000 citizens monthly and recycles 1,300 tons annually of recyclable goods. The renovation of the Central Depository, possible repair of the Sunnyside Multi-Service Center, and repairs to City Hall and City Hall Annex and environmental remediation. Next slide. Proposing $15 million for affordable housing. These dollars will be used to remove blighted properties and make way for new affordable housing. This is not intended to fund our affordable housing program. In total, as you know, we are awaiting federal dollars for Ike recovery on the tune of $100 million, and we have existing debt capacity for housing in the city. So we have a much more extensive program than this, but this is a supplement, a targeted supplement to our housing program. Next slide. Proposing $28 million for libraries, including renovation of the Montrose Library, renovation of the Robinson Westchase Library, replacement of the Moody Library, and replacement of the Meyer Library. Next slide. A total of $160 million for park improvements. This includes improvements at Hayden, Busby, Judson Robinson Jr., J.C., Wright, Bembry, Herman Park, Alief, Nieto, Squatty Lions, Grag, Brayburn Glen, Wild Heather. Those are just the park facilities that have been identified through our existing capital projects. Next slide. However, the reason that, and you can see it on the separate sheet, the reason that the parks bond election is such a significant piece of the proposal is that we have been asked by private sector individuals and the Houston Parks Board to meet a challenge match for the Bio Greenway project. The private sector has agreed to raise $100 million for the completion of our bio trail system, connecting all of the discrete trail segments and then connecting those back into neighborhood parks if the City of Houston will match the private sector fundraising. If we do this and the voters agree, this will allow us to complete a parks vision for the City of Houston that's more than 100 years old. It touches every council district and all the economic sectors of Houston, the various diverse communities of Houston, and it stands to make Houston the #1 city in America for off-street bike trails, completing over 150 miles of trails along 7 of our major bios. There's already been a significant amount of work along the bios. We believe that over the years, in today's dollars, we've invested more than $2 billion in our trail segments. This will give us an opportunity to finish out the complete program of interconnected trails. And I know that many of you have had conversations about this, and it's a tremendous opportunity for the City of Houston. Next slide. The Bio Greenway initiative has the support of a number of community leaders, and I know that many of them are in the audience today. I've seen Baron Wallace and Pam Gardner, Dean Corgi, Bob Colley. There may be others out there who have signed on in this initiative. I know Roxanne Okan-Vick of the Houston Parks Board is here as well. And I appreciate their attendance today if council members have any questions as we get into this. This package of items for our CIP, it meets my goals, but certainly I think our goals of creating jobs. It improves public safety. We invest in our infrastructure. We improve the quality of life of Houstonians, and we do it in a fiscally responsible manner. It helps to maintain Houston as the best place to live and to work and to raise a family. It does not require a tax increase, can be done within our current means, and it falls within what council voted upon with the confirmation of our existing CIP.